Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, he's back this week. It's Tom. He's back from Disney World. How you doing, Tom?
I am back from the House of the Mouse.
That's right.
And I've survived. The Skaven did not get me.
Sure. Yeah, it's all just a Skaven infiltration plan. Exactly. Also joining us this week, also back from, I would say, arguably the actual most magical place on Earth. It's Domus, who was recently over in the UK and went to Warhammer World. That's the most magical place on Earth for me. How
You're
you doing,
not wrong.
Domus?
I'm doing great, thanks. It was amazing. Warhammer World's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like if you have the chance, you have to go. It's our, it's our pilgrimage.
It is the
Our
Mecca.
Mecca.
Yeah, exactly. So, today we're going to celebrate Orktober because it is October and it is Orktober and it's time to It's time to get out the orcs. So we're going to talk about all things orky, everything in Age of Sigmar, that is to say. And yeah, exactly. There's it's funny too for me to even be doing this show because what I say a year and a half ago, I still hated all things orc, had no interest in them whatsoever.
The most hilarious thing ever. The most hilarious development ever.
Yeah.
It was it wasn't a year ago. It was like a year ago you had warmed to them because you were painting them for the end of the month.
Whatever it was. Yeah. At some point in the past year and a half, I went from hating and having zero interest to Tom convincing me to start this army so we could play in a team tournament to orcs moving to my third favorite army, period. And like having more fun playing them than I've ever had playing an army in Warhammer.
Literally the most fun ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely true. It is fun personified in a force. So we'll talk about it when we get into Orktober. So get green, get your WAs ready, and we're gonna get into it. But first, of course, we got some news. So Tom, what do you got?
Let's do some belt buckle rumor engine.
Belt buckle rumor engine. Yeah, and I've got this one on lock. I know what this is, but hold on, let me bring up the picture here. All right. Okie dokie. Share. Here we go. All right. That coming through?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Domus, what do you think it is?
Belt buckle.
That's dead on. Well, we solved this one.
Crack the case.
Another mystery solved.
Genius.
Exactly.
It looks Lord of the Rings-ish, honestly.
Yeah, that's insane. It's Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings.
That's exactly. That's my guess too. This is totally Middle Earth. Like if you look at a lot of the Lake Town people, a bunch of them have this kind of belt / these robes on top of this other thing pulling down in. That's what it looks like.
Or as Paul Wagner has so gallantly said, the Bretonnians, they're back.
Yeah, sure.
Uh-huh.
Good luck. No, we have a whole different game where we sell Tolkien style fantasy. It's the one where they're actually selling Tolkien fantasy, right? Like that's literally that whole game. So we didn't need a second one.
They're like, yeah, we have something for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's Lord of the Rings. Cool, neat. Looks like some human Lord of the Rings dude. I'm sure it'll be fun. So yay. Anticlimactic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Lord of the Rings exists, and I'm glad that GW is doing it.
I want to pick up. I do want to get one of the they made a new Nazgul on Fellbeast or whatever. The flying Nazgul. I always regretted not getting the original one from back in the day because I always really thought that was a cool sculpt. So
which one?
I do want to like the original Nazgul on Fellbeast. They made one from the original Lord of the Rings.
Well, they have a couple of them.
The new one that just came out in like the Pelennor Fields box or whatever it is, whatever the new box is. I don't know.
This one?
Say I have like
hold on.
A lot. Oh,
yeah, that one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't have the rider, but I have the beast.
Cool.
I have a lot of those. I need
what? That's weird. Why?
Topher wanted me to sell his stuff, and so I have like an entire Lord of the Rings like army in my basement, including like at least 4 Nazgul.
Oh, that's cool. All right, well, let me get one of those off you. All right, so anyway, that has nothing to do with this show, but that's interesting stuff. We're learning all the time here. All right, Tom, what else we got in the news?
Words. We have the 500th store anniversary exciting thing.
Yeah, the new Ghosty Boy.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Well, even the Marine. Like, I saw that and I'm like, yeah.
That dude looks cool. Yeah, sure. Well, you have a store. So for me, it's not that bad. I'm not as bad as many.
It's like a 20-minute drive, probably, right?
No, it's about 45 because it's like there's none in the town where I am, but there's one in up north in like Delaware, basically. So it's maybe 40-45 minutes. It's not the worst. Yep. Tom has a store he could walk to. I mean, like, it'd be a bit of a walk, but not that.
No, it's true.
It is a 5-minute drive, tops.
Yeah. Like, I could get some brisk exercise and walk to my gym.
Yeah, it'd be a nice lunchtime jaunt, right? Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
It's pretty hilarious. And it was there before I started playing Warhammer. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess this is going to happen.
I bought my first Gorgon from that store.
You did. And you bought, is that where you bought your, no, you bought the Tomb Kings one from, no, you bought your Gorgon there. Yeah.
Yep. So what about you? What about you, Domus? Do you like the new Ghosty Boy?
I do, but I'm not real interested in. My flavor of death is vampires.
Sure.
So the ghost models are cool and amazing. Don't get me wrong, but they just don't hit the right button for me personally.
We are simpatico on this, my friend. I wouldn't phrase it any differently. I think the models look cool. I think they look neat, but I love vampires. Vampires is the jam. Like they're just a cooler form of undead. By the way, I'm saying of the current undead because I doubt, much like the earlier call from Bretonians, I sincerely doubt the mummies are coming back anytime soon. Although, boy, I would love it. Like, Tomb King should stay dead, bury them. Sorry, unpopular opinion, perhaps, but I would love to see a new re-envisioned like mummy force shamble out of like Haish or something. Like a light.
Gonna hunt you down for that, you know.
Look, I know he is. I've got more Tomb Kings than he does, so I don't want to hear it. Like, I love him, but it's fine. It's fine. This is all fine. Look, the Tomb Kings took 4th place at the Sydney GT, so they're still around.
They're still. Did
they really?
They're still representing.
Yeah. Sydney GT, AOS coach. Shout out to AOS coach. Great dude. Ran an awesome tournament. And Doom and Darkness got 5th, so way to go, buddy.
Wait, Doom got beat by Compendium Army? Is that what
I mean, he never fought them. Like, you can go watch his recap.
Oh, and by the way,
for my pick of the week.
Hello, Doom. He's in the chat right now.
Yeah, sure. Yes, he did not play them. Y'all, my pick of the week is going to be his video, but yeah, they took 4th, so there you go. They're still around. It's a thing.
It is a thing. Related to, like, I love the new Ghost Boys, and actually, like, I love the development of what it means. So up until this point, like, up until 2.0, all of the special release stuff were Stormcast, right? Like, anytime you got special edition models, these one-off releases, they were almost uniformly Stormcast, or they were, actually, now that I think about it.
I don't know if that's true, but for sake of argument, let's say sure.
And now, like, we have the other core set army now being represented for, like, the birthdays and the 500th store and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I love it. I love the sculpt. I'm totally picking up one.
You're in honestly, on Ghosty Boy is what I'm hearing.
I am. I mean, you guys have known that. Like, I have a solid 1K force.
Sure.
And I may run, like, I may pick up that Space Marine for Kill Team, honestly. He's a nice sculpt. Like,
yes,
I'm like holding his helmet, and related to that, moving on to the next piece of news that's not on our list. Did you guys see the randomized packs are coming to the US for 40K?
What? The randomized packs? What you mean, like?
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. What does it mean?
No. So, in Japan last year, they released like a collectible line. Like Lego has done this.
Oh, yeah.
Where they have like a random sculpt that you like buy the one-off sculpt. You don't know what you're getting. And then there's like rares, and it's like a magic pack but for miniatures. And there's like 15 sculpts or whatever.
Yeah, and they were in Japan, right?
They were in Japan in a box that looked like a rhino. So the good news is they're coming to the US. The bad news is the box doesn't look like a rhino anymore, which there's some of us that are kind of upset about it. And so those are coming for those that are interested in Kill Team. Simply because it's a nice set of sculpts. We don't know the price point, but we know they're coming. There's a neat dude with a rocket launcher, and the rocket is like firing out, and there's smoke trails and stuff like that.
Nice.
So, yeah, it'll be neat. It'll be neat. So those are coming as well for those that are 40K folks. We have the War Scrolls for Zarbag and the Eyes of the Nine.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They released their AOS War Scrolls for those.
Can you bring those up, Vince?
Sure. Happy to. Give me just a moment while I switch over to him here. I'll give you my general
your hot take.
I'll give you my hot take on him right now, which is, yep, those are War Scrolls. Like, I mean, what it does, what it says on the tin, it is in fact a War Scroll. I mean, like, as with all of these, I don't know that there's any of them I'm particularly in love with. Like, speaking of Ironjawz, the Ironjawz one is like okay because it's relatively cheap and it still counts as an Ironjawz unit, so it can still help you trigger your WA or whatever.
And there's not a lot of units in Ironjawz that do that.
I mean, yeah, but it's fine. But like, it's 80 points. I'd probably rather have a War Chanter. Like, when you're down to that point level, it's one of the cheapest things in the army. But I'd still probably rather have a War Chanter.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like a bad deal, wounds or capability or attack by points. It's just like, okay. So anyways, here's Zarbag. That's with his little firefly thing. And, he's a wizard, perhaps unsurprisingly. The coolest thing about Zarbag is his spell, which is also Zarbag has like a ton of attacks for a wizard. He's like 3 attacks, which is nuts for a wizard. But anyway,
normally they're 2, so that's
or 1. Many wizards use 1. But anyway, Zarbag has a spell. It's very close range. It's casting value 5, and you pick an enemy unit within 3. However, that unit must make its normal move and must retreat. If it's impossible for the unit to make the move, it suffers D6 mortal wounds instead. Kind of cool. Now, obviously, the problem with it is it's a hero phase thing. That's when you're casting the spell. So that means, like, you were in somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
And had to still be alive at that point. Like, either they came charged into you and you didn't die, or you moved to them last round, lived,
in double turned
double turned and got it off. But still, I mean, it's a cool spell. Things that make people retreat, I'm generally a big fan of, right? Because you can push people off of objectives and stuff. It's just very difficult to use. So,
yep.
That's cool. And the neat thing is he can definitely cast a single spell once a game because he has this little sniffer spite where he can just on a 2+ get 2 to his casting roll. So kind of a cool dude if you're trying to fire off like an early cogs or something, right? Where you want to really nail it. Kind of neat thing. And then he's got all his gits, whatever. I mean, it's all the gits. They do what you think they do, He has netters and he has squigs and he has a fanatic and stuff like that. And there are 160 points for all the models. So, okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I like it. It's nice.
Like this one's fine. At 160, it's fine. You could do it. You can do some interesting stuff with it. It's kind of an interesting little combination of things. The Tzeentch one is much less interesting. So Vortimus, the All-Seeing. It's a 220 point unit. You get him and basically his 4 dudes. And I don't see it. Like, I don't get this one at its points. He is Arcanite, right? He is mortal. But he's not demon. So,
right.
Okay. I mean, he's a Tzeentch caster, so he can get Tzeentch spell stuff, right? If you take him in a Tzeentch aligned army. He gives you his spell gives you when I first read this, you're going to be like, what? That's amazing. It has a casting value of 5. And if successfully cast, you get an extra command point. And if we stopped right there, I'd be like, okay, the 220 makes sense. Right. But we're not going to. The extra command point can only be spent on at the double, forward to victory, or inspiring presence.
So the core stuff.
And it's all or inspiring presence command ability used by this model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
See how that kept getting worse the more I read? Because you're like, oh, okay, well, that's still cool. I get an extra bonus point to make somebody run 6. I hope that somebody who wants to run 6 is real close to Vortimus, right? So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but I get it.
He's a single caster that can sometimes double cast if you roll. If the first, no, it's if you roll doubles. If when you're casting his spell, you roll doubles, you get to cast an extra spell. And then you have the Eyes of the Nine, which are just exactly what you would expect. It's like two of those guys, the Arcanites or whatever, and then
Carrick Acolytes.
Yeah, two Carrick Acolytes,
We're
and
gonna
then
roll doubles. You're just gonna have doubles. Come on.
Sure. Yeah, it's a fair point. But still, like, boy, that's. I mean, I don't know, man. I can think of better stuff to use my Tzeentch dice on in a Tzeentch army. That's all I'm saying. You've got like Kacharik, which is neat. That's the name of the Zangor. He's got his own name. I think it's cool. And the blue horror gets replaced by the Brimstone. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to find armies that any of these are really usable in. Like maybe the Khorne army for the Khorne warbands.
Well, it's funny because this one's probably one of the ones that's still somewhat usable in a sort of destruction soup list, right? Since there is no goblin allegiance you're competing with, right, or something like that yet. Like you maybe I could see somebody, and it's a lot of models. Many of whom have extra wounds because, like, even though they're all 1 wound dudes, the Squig Herder and the Cave Squig models all have a wounds characteristic of 2. Right, so you're actually getting like 5, 10. You get like 15 wounds for that 160 points. It's not terrible. Like it's 1 dude's a caster, and it's okay. They're okay. I'm not saying I think they're good. I think if somebody can probably find a use for them in some kind of weird destruction soup list. So yeah, they're fine. As I said, long way around, they're fine. Like, cool. Yeah, as with all of these things, it's funny to me. Like, I really feel like GW has missed a trick with all of this stuff. Okay. Yeah. Which they've only done correct once, and with the least popular thing. And here's what I mean by that. You put 2 squigs out in this box, right? I have to imagine if you just took those 2 squigs, repeated those 2 sculpts like 5 times, right, and put out a box of 10 squigs, you could sell just an innumerable number of them, especially if some book comes out, right? Because people freaking love squigs and want more plastic squigs. Same with like the Fleshhound, right? Like we've got 2 different plastic Fleshhounds that aren't part of a Fleshhound box. Hashtag release the hounds. Like many times, the only time they did this, they figured it out was with the Gryph-hounds, right?
Yeah.
Which was like the least popular version of that thing. So I just feel like they're missing a trick with these other supporting animals or whatever you want to call them. I don't know that a squig's an animal, but whatever he is, this is supporting fungus, I guess. Yeah, supporting angry volleyball. Like they should just make a box set. You've got the sculpts, just put them together. I understand it's more complicated than that. I know I'm oversimplifying, but still, I feel like you'd make your money back. Anywho, yeah. What else we got?
Not a lot, honestly.
Sure.
Then we have and then we have your news bit.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. So let me talk about this. Okay, so I can finally talk about this now. So next year in 2019, I'm going to be teaching with CK Studios, which is Caleb and Kat. If everybody knows them, Caleb and Kat are the masters of airbrushing. They teach all over the world. They do a lot of classes. Holy crap. And they're all amazing. They're both really, really great people who put a lot of love and effort into their classes. And they asked me to come on and join them and teach some classes next year. And I'm thrilled to do so. So the first one of which is going to be in February of 2019. I'll post a link down in the description to where you can go to find all the info on it. It will be outside of Philadelphia, basically. And it is the 16th and 17th, if memory serves. Let me go look at my calendar. I really should have had those dates set in my mind. Yes. The 16th and 17th.
It's my birthday weekend, the week before Holy Wars.
Oh, there you go. So we're going to be doing what's called the 103 class, which is we're going to do a Knight Titan. So so if you, as most people who follow me probably know, I love me some Knight Titans. So we're going to take a Knight Titan from primer. We're going to work on freehanding it, weathering, painting it, making it look good, and getting a display quality Titan. We're going to get you there. It's a 16-hour class over 2 days.
Wow.
So it's intensity in 10 cities. And if you're anywhere near Philadelphia and you have interest in, learning more about airbrushing, doing freehand, doing weathering on robots, anything like that, and you want to come hang out for a couple of days and paint, it's going to be a lot of fun.
What do people need to bring for something like that?
I'm putting together a doc right now of everything for it. But yes, as a word of warning, this is a slightly more expensive class. Okay, so just to get that out there, because it is 2 days and 16 hours, and you have to provide your own Knight Titan, right? So, I mean, like that's what you're, yeah. So, that being said, I will post the information, and I'm putting together a Google Doc with all the like FAQ and tips and stuff like that, and what you can bring. The class is filling up pretty fast already since Kat posted it middle last week. So if you're interested, you should sign up. I would love to see you there. I hope to see you there. It's in a beautiful store that was just completely retrofitted. It has like a ramen shop in the store. Okay.
Like noodles?
So, yeah, dude. So it's amazing. And it's really nice. The people who run the shop are awesome and are providing a discount, by the way, to anybody who buys the Knight from them. So you can do that. And yeah. So like I said, I'll post the info for that. I'm going to be teaching more than just this one. That's just the first one we have officially scheduled. I'll probably do about 5 classes around the world with them next year. So there you go. If you have questions about it and you want to know more after you go to the link, do not hesitate to reach out to me either in the comments here or on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever you want to. Okay. All right. So there we go. Cool. I think that ends our news. So let's go to some pick of the week. You had a thing you sent me, and then I promptly didn't grab it. So Domus, you had a thing. I'm going to bring it up right now, but you wanted to introduce it and say what it is?
Yeah. So I picked Richard Gray's Facebook page, and he's an amazing miniature painter. I'm pretty sure he's got tons and tons and tons of accolades to his name.
You ain't kidding.
And I think one of the things he's probably most known for at the moment is the Moth Mortarion that he's been working on.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I've seen that he recently did that really just kind of blew me away from color saturation, the whole kit and caboodle, was one of the Night Haunt. There he is, the Grimghast Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just a primary color scheme, but man, it's just freaking amazing.
It's so beautiful.
It's just the colors are so rich and so amazing. So, and that was in August, and I keep going back to it because it's so freaking amazing looking.
The way he transitions from the red to the blue, right, and makes the blue so ethereal and intense, and then just puts those little pops into the red orange, like it's just wonderful. Yep.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a masterclass in color balance, color theory, and just like how to make a model be vibrant. Yeah, Richard's obviously a painting idol of mine. Like the man is he is a machine and just an incredible freehand artist at the same time. An all around unbelievably great dude. So
yeah, that's cool. I honestly, almost all of the top painters I've met have been really just cool dudes. And happy to sit and talk, or cool gals, not to rule out the gals either.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I've ever really met anybody who was like standoffish.
No, I definitely haven't, and they're most folks are happy to talk about, like yourself, what they do and how they get there, and I really appreciate that.
I think that's because a lot of us miniature painters probably weren't like probably weren't artists in the traditional sense first, right? We all just started by painting miniatures for armies or whatever, and then just kept doing it for a long time. So like I as I've frequently said, I don't ever think of myself as an artist. Sometimes people say that and I'm like, that's not how I think of myself. But so I think most people it's fun to share and discuss the miniature painting we all love. So there you go.
Yep.
That's an awesome pick. I will link his Facebook down there. Look up Richard on everything. He's actually been working on just a simple Space Marine on
the black one, yeah.
Yeah, on Instagram recently. And it's just gorgeous. It's again like it's almost universally black. Right? It's just a black Space Marine. And yet it's incredible how rich he's managed to make that black. So yeah, he has an unbelievably gifted eye for that stuff. Tommy, what do you got, buddy? What's your pick?
I don't normally promote threads on TGA as my pick of the week, but it's going to be that this week. So Jack Armstrong did a wonderful post on TGA reflecting on how to become a better competitive gamer. And basically it was an encouragement for people to actually sit down and reflect on what they could have done better in a game. He had a wonderful final game against Ben Sava at Angel Corps. And what Jack's response, I mean, he ended up losing to Ben, but he went and everybody was like, oh, it was, the compliments generally were, it was a highly tactical, like top line game. And Jack was like, I saw so many of my own mistakes in that game.
Right.
And he's like, this is how you get better. And he walks through like all the things that he did that he should have done differently. Nice. And it's just a wonderful kind of introspective reflection on self-critique. And so I would highly recommend it. It's a good read.
Nice.
I almost picked that one. I figured one of you
It's a solid pick and a solid article. And I agree. The ability to sit back, like very often you hear people when they lose a game, they'll be like, well, it was bad dice or it was a bad matchup or a bad scenario. And that might all be true. Okay. Like I'm not saying that's never the case. It certainly is sometimes. Luck is luck. But also, I think you have to, if you're interested in improving competitively, you've got to look at yourself critically at the end of the game and say,
absolutely,
what did I do wrong? Right? How could I have responded to those negative inputs better? Right.
Yep. And he talks about that. He said, there's always going to be critical dice rolls.
Sure.
And so the question is how do you respond when there's a critical dice roll that doesn't break your way?
Sure.
And stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good article. I would highly recommend it.
Very nice. For myself, my pick of the week is our buddy Doom and Darkness. As I mentioned, he went to the Sydney GT and he took 5th overall with his mixed chaos nonsense that I love. And I love it because he had 2 Vermin Lords in there, like the one to summon the giant rats and the one to go skitter leap and assassinate people.
Yeah.
He had Kadai Fireborn in there. He had, Ungors. It was wonderful. It was a great, great, beautiful list of all the chaos goodness. And so he goes through in a single video his games 1 through 5, talks about his opponents, talks about the matchups and, kind of how the games played out, shows some pictures from the games. It's real nice. It's not like an in-depth bat rep. It's more of like his experience at the tournament and how he did in the matchups and what he felt were the pivotal moments and things like that. So it's a good listen. If you're looking for a good hour plus of content while you're painting, cannot recommend enough. So there you go. I will link that down below. So, gentlemen, that means it's time to turn to some hobby time. And Domus, I couldn't help but notice that behind you, off your right shoulder, is a big old stack of Dragon Ogre boxes. So what are you working on?
Ginormous box of Dragon Ogres. If I can get it in the picture, where is it? I suck at this. I would be terrible at porn. There it is.
There it is.
I'd be terrible at like the porn video sites because I mean, I suck at this.
Look over here at my.
Right.
It's good to know your skill set, I guess.
Yeah,
So that's important.
Exactly. Dragon Ogres, man. Dragon Ogres for days. I got 24 to build. I have 6 done. Amazing little thing about the Dragon Ogres is the sub-assemblies are just perfect. The torso, the top half is just perfectly separate. So you can do the weapons and everything, which will be great when I get to the airbrushing to do the skin one color and the scales and everything else another color.
Nice. Yeah, and then you can just do a nice little fade, bring it down in from the skin, easy
Yep.
touch at the end. Yeah, no, that's
Yep.
great.
It's gonna hopefully paid up quick. So
yeah, so you have 24 total dragon ogres, you said?
24 dragon ogres and 3 shagas. and a herdstone, and then the dirge horn. That's the list. So
nice. I like how you went from, we're going to talk about Ironjawz, obviously, in this episode, since we're talking about orcs. And I like how you went from like one super efficient, chaff / also aggressive unit to the, an almost duplicate version of that thing, but then made it your whole army.
Well, they got the destruction move, right? So
yeah, they
course.
did exactly.
And it turns out the trait that I take is it's really neat how it works for the dragon ogres, because you roll 1 dice and they all move the 1 roll.
Yep.
So
right.
my trait, of course, then is to reroll
that dice. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's I don't expect to be winning tournaments, but man, it's going to be fun. So
absolutely. It's funny too, because you don't think about it with the Shaggoth, but I took my beasts out for the first time this last weekend, and like that D6 in the hero phase to move with them. It's funny, like Tom mentioned this offhand, and I didn't really think about it, but the fact that they can move before they cast.
It's plus D6 spell range.
yes.
Like it made a big difference.
It's huge.
Yeah, like constantly I would
Such
find
a good
myself
deal.
like just out of spell range, but then I'd be like, whoop, scoots. Right?
Yep.
Just like little scoot right in there.
I told you. Yep.
Yeah. You don't think about those little things, but it was a deal.
It's very nice, and their spell lore is real nice. So
Oh yeah. Oh god. Oh god, it's so brutal. It's amazing.
yes.
All right. So,
Hey,
Tom,
Vince,
what are
you
you working
want me to give me that Beastman shirt you gave me a while ago?
no, it's fine. You can keep it. It's fine. It did. I will say that like I did end up managing to spoil the game. I played like a multiplayer game this weekend with my beasts, and I did manage to ruin. I stopped somebody from winning. I lost, but I did manage to. I mean, like it's fine. It was the first time I played the army, and I literally just like ambushed half the force and then attacked both other players. They didn't fight each other. I just fought both of them. Not a recipe for victory in a 3-player game. Just trot that idea out there. But I had a lot of fun. But I did end up taking the victory away from somebody else by summoning a Tuscarora chariot in the last round when the only model I had left on the board was a Brayherd shaman, and then running it in and re-rolling the charge and slamming into his model. So there you go. And it stole the point from him. So go Tuscarora chariots. What are you working on, Tom?
My daughters. I did not anticipate making as much progress in this last week as I have.
Well, good.
And so, like I took a week off, obviously, because I was traveling. Yeah. I'm done at this point with my 60 witches. Like I'm very quickly, like swiftly approaching preparedness for Havoc.
I mean, done. I don't know. Your bases aren't rimmed black, but you're the primary.
No, they are.
Is done.
Like 2 models aren't rimmed black, but everybody else is. Ass. But yeah, I mean, making good progress. I may like down the road after Havoc go back in and do some more detail work on hair and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm happy with let me see if I have the army picture. I know it's around here somewhere. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's a terrible picture, so it's the perfect one to share. When I get all these done for Havoc, I'll actually post all of this.
While you're bringing that up, I want to discuss something because somebody, Haywo's in the chat, and he said, "I thought rules don't sell models though," because he was referring to the Dragon Ogre thing. Rules don't sell models as the sole contributory factor, but releases sell models. If they had just reformatted the Dragon Ogre scroll and made it relatively cheap, sure, they'd sell a few boxes of them, right? But imagine it was just Thunderscorn was still its own thing, and it had no alignment with beasts, and it had no actual big function. Sure, they'd sell a couple more boxes. But if you do a whole Beast of Chaos release and make it part of an army and make a bunch of noise about it and market it and make it part of a fun, functional force, Yeah, sure. Releases sell models. And I don't mean that doesn't have to be a new release only, right?
Oh, as an aside, the other half of that is that it's not only releases; it's that like the competitive character of a Warscroll isn't going to sell models because the actual competitive portion of their market is so small. It's 1 to 2% of the actual players, if that. So rules themselves don't sell models, although for the competitive players, it will sell models to competitive players. It's just those aren't the market.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, you really can't see my stuff, but whatever. Got a good 60 witches done. Yeah, making
Nice.
progress.
Looking good, man.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. Yeah, I have a couple more models working on my warlord right now, so can't wait to reveal that. That'll be a fun reveal when she gets done. So she's there's a lot of blending going on there.
You okay?
A lot of blending. It's one of those instances where I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done this. Like, this was a mistake.
Gotcha.
Like, the idea for this was, yes, that was a mistake.
At least it's one model and not the whole army.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, it's as soon as I saw this model, I really wanted to paint it, and I got it, and I'm painting it, and I'm like, yeah, I was dumb. So, yeah, and I can't wait to reveal that. That'll be fun.
Okay. Well, we're all excited about it, Tom. For myself, I'll just show the base of what I'm working on. This is my 60 mil base, as you can see.
They're gonna ban your entry.
This is a completely legitimate 60 mil base. As you can see, that's completely a 60 mil base on the bottom. We've done some other things. So I'm working on this. There will be figures on this, obviously. This is the most complicated, like, small, like, base type thing I put together with the arrangement of the figures because they're all doing something. So, like, and they're all interacting with each other. So I had to spend a bunch of time, like, mapping out each one and then making, because they're all touching each other in some way. So I had to, like, everybody had to get perfectly aligned to like make this ridiculous thing I'm trying to build work. So we'll see.
And what is this for, Vince?
So it's for the if you win a Golden Demon, then you get to participate in the Golden Demon Winners Challenge, where they give you a theme and you make something based on that theme. That's it.
Awesome.
So this year's theme is the Witch, and you have to use 40K models, and you have to do something related to the Witch. And so that's what I'm working on. And I don't know what I'm allowed to share of it, although I'm sure showing like the base is not some kind of thing. I did ask the question because I'd love to actually share it, but if I'm not allowed to, I won't. But there you go. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on. And a bunch of things are primed up and ready to go.
When's the competition?
Yeah, it has to be turned into them by January. And then
online or?
No, like you have to give it to them. So, so either I take it over there, or by the date in January, or I have to post it to them, which is going to be super fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that given what I'm doing here, because I have models like not touching the ground and being held up by other models. And then they judge, I think in like February or March or something. I think in February, and then then they display everything until Warhammer Fest in May, when you can pick it up. So, and then the new season starts. So there you go. So yeah, I as Paul said, yep, sorry, I have to go to Warhammer World. No choice. Yeah, I can't ship it. I better, you know what? I better just head over there. That's what I'll have to tell my wife. It's completely justifiable. Yeah, exactly.
I think she knows.
Yeah, it's fine. There's just no other choice that's reasonable. Okay, so gentlemen, let's talk about some WoW, shall we?
Wow.
Yay.
Whoa, Tom. Super enthused.
Yeah, I love Tom's enthusiasm.
No, I don't. That's not a critique. Like, that may have sounded like it, but like I am excited. Like, I do. I have a bunch of Ironjawz up there that I will get to
sometime after they're no longer a faction. He'll get to them right after they're discontinued in 2032.
That's
I look
possible.
forward to that.
2032. Wow.
Mhm. Yeah, that's. I don't predicting the life cycle.
I'm just waiting for them to be discontinued so I have something to bitch about, and then I'll make them.
Now
Yes, now we get to the heart of the matter.
I'm buying everything just so when it's discontinued, I have something to gripe about.
There you go.
I was gonna make that army. Sure you were. Okay. So so let's start out talking about sort of the general state of destruction, specifically the green skins in destruction, but destruction in general as it spans across. So Domus, what's your thought of the general state of destruction right now?
The general state is it needs some love. And I've said that numerous times. I've said it to everybody that I know, and there's not, if you look at order and you look at chaos, the sheer amount, and now death too, really, the sheer amount of good choice in all of those factions now is just kind of staggering. And destruction has a lot of choice, but it doesn't have a lot of good choice at the moment. A lot of it's amazingly fun, but it's definitely not top tier by any means. That said, it's not on the backside of the foot either, and a good player can still do some interesting things with it. We saw there was 2 destruction players in the top 10 at Facehammer.
Yep.
So I haven't been keeping up with other GTs. I was kind of sucked into World of Warcraft for a while, and
I think there was actually like a Beast Claw that took 11th place at Angel Corps.
Nice.
I'm very sure that's right. So how about that, huh? I mean, that's pretty good for them. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with that appraisal. Like, obviously, they're the faction that's still riding the most on the oldest stuff.
Yes.
Right? Because even the Bonesplittaz are basically just the savages from from the world
of Savage Orcs with a couple more.
The first tome outside of the box.
Both it and Beast Claw released in the same month or within a couple of weeks of each other. Yeah, it was July of 2016. July of 2016. Yeah, it
was right before the first General's Handbook, right?
Yeah, I couldn't remember the timing.
Or was it 2015? No, I don't know. No, 2015 was the game itself. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Who cares? The point is, it's old. A lot of destruction is coasting on old models. Like, that's the trick, right? Like, there's a lot of basically what we've seen as far as releases goes is the Ironjawz, and obviously they occupy an unfortunate position of having been a non-battle tome, right? Of getting the fluff tomes from the first year. They have the priest.
No. They had spells. They had at least the Bonesplittaz had spells.
I'm talking about Ironjawz.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bonesplittaz have
Ironjawz was right before Sylvaneth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Sylvaneth came and it had everything.
Yeah, it changed the world, right? It was this.
So Ironjawz, by comparison, is totally lackluster just because it didn't have all the goodies that the Sylvaneth did. If you're looking at the timeline.
Yep. So it's because of that, even the Ironjawz suddenly aged quickly. Like, the sculpts are incredible. I just mean, like, from a rules perspective, they occupy that very unfortunate position, right, of being sort of right there where they just have a pure fluff tome. Now they also got nice treatment in the General's Handbooks, but which is great. I'm not sad about that. But the when you look across the range, it's a lot of old stuff. A lot of the orcs. Now, I'm not saying those kits are bad. I think a lot of the Savage models are still great models. I think the Ironjawz are some of the best models they've made ever.
100%.
Just ever. So, like, kit-wise, aesthetic-wise, I think they have a fantastic range at their disposal. I'll leave, like, the non-green skins out of this for the moment. Though there's plenty of other good stuff scattered around there too. But it's a tough road to hoe, right? Like, if you're going destruction, and if your goal is ultra competitive. But in my mind, who cares? Because I think that's way more of a fun place to be in. right? You have an army that in destruction that can do some really great stuff, and when you win with it, good. You know what I mean? Like it's especially when you're fighting a lot of tougher armies. It's like, yeah, you had to play hard to win that.
And
That's a great
stackable
thing.
law is just amazing.
Stackable Wa is great. So let's talk about stackable Wa. Let's get into we're gonna start out. Okay. Let's do a little Ironjawz deep dive because they are probably the banner solo faction out of destruction, right?
100%.
They are the newest set of models. Even though it was a fluff tome, it was still a new tome. It was mostly new models. Obviously, they did grandfather in what was Black Orcs and is now Ardboys. I love how the biggest, meanest orcs from the old world became the smallest, weediest orcs from the Ironjawz. It shows you how much things grow in the mortal realms.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I've said this forever. Like the old story with orcs was orcs will just keep growing forever, right? The more they fight, the more they win, they'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Hence why the mega boss is so big compared to, say, a normal orc, right? Because he is the fightiest and the winniest of them. I still await the day where we get the orcish giant, right? Like the orc who has kept going, who just goes the next size category up and becomes like giant sized. Just saying, make it happen.
I just want a boss on a Gordrakk. #1 request for Ironjawz.
Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame that we don't have the mega boss on Gordrakk?
It is.
Yes,
it is.
Not that we don't love our foot boss because he's awesome.
Oh, oh my gosh, is he amazing?
Yes, and not that we don't love the mega boss on Maw Crusher. They're both good, but so like, and in fact, Domus, you have played your Ironjawz a lot. So hit me with some of the force. What do you like? What did you have fun with? What do you think are the standouts of the 7 units that the Ironjawz have?
Brutes, and brutes, and brutes.
I don't know that anybody that knows Domus could have expected any other response than brutes.
I love brutes. When I first developed my Ironjawz army, it was under GHB 1. And I ran a big unit of brutes, and my general was definitely my unit champion, who was my Iron Fist boss, who was, and it was all about being immune to battle shock,
right?
Because if you want to kill brutes, all you got to do is make them take tests, and they die in droves, and it's painful. So
I have been on the receiving end of that massive block of brutes, and it was painful.
I tell you what, if you get 10 brutes with 3 was is bad news.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. You ain't kidding.
It is bad news. So that's what I ran at Facehammer is I ran 10 5/5 brutes. And I had 3, 4, and 5 was stacked at various times. And I chewed through ridiculous amounts of models with all those attacks.
Oh god, I love it so much. Like, especially if you get them into something where they can actually duff it up, right? If they're on like duff up when they hit something, forget about it. That is it. Say goodnight, Gracie, right? Because my god, the accuracy on them just goes so through the roof when they're rerolling.
And even if you're against big guys, so like 10 brutes killed 2 bloodthirsters with quadruple Wa without blinking.
Sure. Like that's a speed bump.
Yeah.
That's a speed bump.
I mean, never mind that the guy had done like 27 mortal wounds with his exploding axe prior or something. That thing's wicked.
Yeah.
So I like brutes. What do you like, Vince?
I've got to give a shout out to the noble pig. If there's
and is anybody else surprised?
Yeah, like seriously, Gorgruntas are amazing. I've seen a lot of people who play Ironjawz or who play this kind of, this army, like talk down about them or say like, I don't understand Gorgrunters or I don't think they're good or something like that. And my response is then I don't know what world you live in, or 2, you're doing it wrong. Because if there was a single MVP in every game I played, it was the pigs. The pigs were always there, doing the heavy lifting, doing what was necessary, being this like ridiculous mobile anvil that could still do enough damage to be, threatening, right? They were wherever between like Iron Fist and your Ironjawz movement and their own base movement, pigs are the American Express of the Ironjawz force. They're everywhere you want to be, right?
They're amazing.
Yeah, and like you got like for me, it was always a unit of 6, a unit of 3, a unit of 3. That was my preferred, right? So you had 2 small flankers and a big honking block to just go like pin something and be like, you know what, you deal with these 30 wounds, okay? Like, and you can spread out far enough on their big bases. It's very hard to retreat around them and get anywhere unless you can fly over the top. And even then, you can just pin them, you know, sort of like in a cloud, in a bigger cloud, so they can't necessarily even fly, you know, behind you. They're amazing at their cost. I don't know what to say.
Especially the new cost. I mean, they were
Yeah.
180 prior. The new cost at 140 is just.
They're so good.
I only painted 6, so I only ever run 2 units of 3 just because that's all I painted. And after I was done painting them, I cussed a lot.
Yeah.
Said never again.
They are a time-consuming paint job. You're not wrong.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. That being said, I think they were actually probably some of my favorite things to paint out of it. Just like because they are rich with detail, right? Like it's amazing how fun and characterful those guys are. As a side hobby note, they really upped their game. I like painting faces a lot. And the Ironjawz have incredible faces. So if you like painting faces, they're so expressive. And they have a bunch of like little details in like teeth that are broken, scars across the eyes and stuff. Just like a lot of really cool detail on the Ironjawz faces. So
the aesthetic is 100% what pulled me in. And I never liked orcs. I always thought they were dumb and silly. And just too silly for words in you know the old fantasy battles, but the Ironjawz just I knew instantly, fell in love.
Yeah, it was a longer courting for me, but I'm with you. Like same story, right? Where I just thought they were dumb. I never was that interested, and I got in those Ironjawz, and I never looked back. I think we can't not mention Ironjawz. We should talk about both the mega bosses and the multi-Wa. So do you want to explain the multi-Wa and the premise here? And how it interacts with the easy battalions of the Ironjawz.
So the Bloodtooth battalion. Actually, I was a long time Iron Suns fan. But knowing my love for brutes, converted to Bloodtooth because it gives you +2 bravery.
Yep,
which is amazing. You take the boss skewer, now you're +3, and all your brutes are bravery 9, which means they probably are never going anywhere from those kind of tests. But yeah, so you start the game. If you've got Bloodtooth, you've got 2 battalions. Same with Iron Suns. So you start the game with 2 command points, maybe more if you buy more. I don't buy more for Ironjawz because 2 is plenty to start the game with. And then I see some Ironjawz players that are like, I got to run and get in turn 1, and I don't play them like that. I play a slower game, try to stage so that when I hit, everything is hitting. Because with brutes, they are slower. So you gotta plan and prepare for that, and you try to hit as much. I try at least to hit as much as possible as I can at one time, and then at that point, if you've got 4 or 5 command points, and you start wine, and you can do it multiple times, and every Ironjawz unit within 15 from the mega boss on mock crushers, I think.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's really nice. I did find myself at Facehammer in a lot of situations where I only had 5 units total for my WA. Which is cool, but also not, because then when you roll the 6, you're bumming. So, but that's okay. You still you take the good with the bad. But then when it goes off, you get +1 attack to every one of those models. If you have 6 units and within range, and you roll the 6, you get +2 attacks. So that's the dream, right? Is to go 4 or 5 WAs and get 2 or 3 6s or more.
Yep. Yeah, it's
amazing.
Oh God. The multi-Wa is a ridiculous experience. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that the people who play Ironjawz 1-drops like that, right? Like it is not hard to build a 1-drop Ironjawz. Almost by default. It should be noted here that one of the great true pleasures of building an Ironjawz army is that you don't have to care about battle line.
Yeah, because everything,
just the army is battle line. Like
heroes are battle line. Period.
Right. It's like those are your choices. So it's just such a wonderful, like, experience because you can move your unit numbers around however you want, right? And it's sure, you've still satisfied your battle line. Because the battalions themselves necessitate like 3, or if you're in the Mega Battalion, 5 of these units, and so by you're almost always at 5 of 3 battle line.
Yeah, and then both the Mega Battalions let you bring in anybody else.
Right, and they all say any number of Ironjawz units. Fantastic. Hence why I also commented on the Shadespire crew for Ironjawz, because you actually can include them in the Mega Battalion.
Yep.
Like, they don't actually influence your drops, which is weird for those Shadespire crews. A rarity, certainly. So they one drop super easy, so you very frequently, especially in the current meta, have the choice on turn. And I see a lot of people take it, like take the first turn. And this is it's mind-boggling to me.
I don't get it either. I don't think I took it once at Facehammer.
No, I'm sure. I multiple tournaments I have given the first turn to the other player, almost universally.
I think the only way I wouldn't is if I was like across from some ranged army of death that didn't have to move.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
And
even then, would you take the first turn?
If I was,
I would think about it real seriously.
Sure, it might make me rethink. I'll say this. I tend to still favor Iron Suns since I use pigs more than, and my brute units don't tend to go over 5.
Sure.
And if
pigs don't need bravery.
Pigs are fine. They're fine. Like if something gets into you that makes you lose like 3 pigs, things are going downhill anyways, right? So it's fine, whatever. And if I've got that neg 1 to hit from Iron Suns up, if the Cunning plan has went off, in general, I'm much less afraid of like first turn shooting armies. It's incredible how much that will depress their capabilities.
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing what it does to a murder host too. I did that. And the guy's face was just like, "Excuse me, you just did what?"
This is called a cunning plan, and it worked. You have been out strategeried by the orcs, stupid demons.
He was surprised when I one dropped, so that was the first like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Right. Oh, you thought you were safe on them 2 drops, didn't you? Nope. Nope. So it's a leisurely building experience. You have those walls, and to me, you let the other person take the first turn, and you either play for the double 1 to 2, or you play conservatively at the bottom of 1, assume you're not going to get the double, and you play for the double 2 to 3, right? Because in my experience, if you have the double on 2 to 3, and you have your command points really, like, if you're sitting on them, you haven't been forced to press that button yet, right?
2 to 3 is such an essential turn.
When suddenly you can, like, when you can basically quad or quintois, depending on if you have items that are pushing your command points, right? If you've got like the Aether Quartz Brooch or whatever, and then you go into 3 and can wah an additional time in that turn, maybe 2 with a brooch. Life gets wacky real fast. Like, I mean, there aren't that many things in the world that can stand up to a brute unit at +5 to 6 attacks.
No.
That's so much damage. They will rip through most anything. Not to mention if the Mega Boss on Maw Crush is still alive.
I mean, just the Smasher and the Claw damage alone.
Yeah.
Coming out of the unit champ is just bonkers.
If you hit once, right, with that claw, you suddenly auto hit with like 6 or 7 smash attacks, and it's just like, well, all right.
All my best destruction at Facehammer was when I went into turn 3 and hadn't spent a single command point, and pulled 4 or 5 was right at the, and hit some I'd hit, some I wouldn't, and that was okay. But the death and destruction that was being unleashed was just phenomenal. So I found out early on at Facehammer that best destruction was being decided purely on kill points. So I found this out in the middle of game 1, and I just stopped everything and switched. This was my whole plan.
Game plan.
Yep. This is all I'm doing is killing stuff. Nothing else matters. So
Going for murder. And boy, are they a good army for that. Like there are many better choices.
yes.
Because that they can do. So there's a couple other fun things, like their spell is of course ridiculous. You have other interesting things like your caster if you're using Ardboy's clouds, you can get your caster up to +2 to cast pretty easy. His big spell is incredibly destructive but incredibly hard to pull off as it casts on a 10. But if it goes off and you get even like 1 or 2 extra stomps out of the foot of Gork, somebody's having a bad day. As Tom learned when I stomped a couple of his characters right into the ground.
I don't want to talk about it.
That murder host game I was talking about, he turned the tides on me and was beating me. So turn 3, I went for a foot of Gork on an 8, and I was like, I'm never gonna get this, but I gotta try. And I got it. And then I killed his totem guy, the guy with the banner that every corn player has.
Yes.
And then 57 blood letters later, foot of Gork was finally done.
God.
So single-handedly, that spell turned my hard L into a hard win.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's what foot can do sometimes.
And it's never, ever done that ever before.
Sure. Hey, it's going to happen sometime, and that's going to be a game to remember. Yeah, that's fantastic. And then we also should note that it's an army that has, +1 to hit on tap, right? In the form of the War Chanta, in a thing that doesn't require any resources or command points or anything like that. It's a stackable +1, so you can have multiple War Chanters load up on a single person. Notable for giving the foot mega boss, who has like 6 attacks base and more with his Wa, the Sword of Judgment. The Sword of Japan, Teiwo Twitch likes to call it, and just let that dude sneak around and then suddenly just explode some enemy monster with like 8 or 9 attacks, doing a D6 mortal wounds on a 4+. Like that's a pretty normal scenario.
I gotta say, I tried out the Thermal Rider Cloak at Facehammer after talking with Kieran Harper.
Yeah.
Kieran is like the top Ironjawz player in the UK, and in fact, I used his army at Facehammer. He's an amazing guy. But he was like, Thermal Rider Cloak, you need it for the on-foot guy. And I tried it, and it's absolutely amazing. +4 inch.
I told you that.
I know. I agree. I've used it before, too. It's super fun.
That's the whole problem with that guy is you can't get him where he needs to be.
Right.
And it just solves all that problem.
Yeah, the flying and setting him to a base 8-inch move is such a it's a complete change in the way he works. It's funny, too, because like he has a buff for brutes, right? Where if he's near the brutes, they get to reroll 1s. So, which is quite useful when you have a bunch of dudes who basically are hitting on 3s or 2s or something if you've got a Chanter buff on him.
But he has to keep up.
But he has to keep up, which he never does.
He never does.
Because you've Iron Fisted and you've Ironjawz moved the relevant unit of brutes. And this dude, meanwhile, is just like chugging along. Right?
Bros?
Yeah, he's just... But that Thermal Rider Cloak actually lets him keep up because he can also then hop stuff, right?
He was always my chief objective holder because he was an amazing objective holder.
Sure.
But with the Thermal Rider Cloak, he's just
he can suddenly be stompy again.
Yeah. And with the Wa, and plus a gazillion attacks, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's got a smaller range on his buff, only being 10 inches, but still, you can actually, if you like, I've seen a couple lists that eschew the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, right? And go for more cloud MSU Ironjawz, because like without the Mega Boss, if you take that cost out of there, you suddenly can fit a lot more stuff in.
For sure.
And it's not that hard to have 6 units within 10 inches of him. And I think in that case, the cloak is almost essential because then you can put him right in the middle, sort of, where you would want him when you're testing for the Wa. Because that's what's notable, right? You decide to use it in the hero phase, and then you play out all the move and the charge, and then you test, right?
Yeah.
So the downside, of course, we have to mention with Ironjawz, that is the thing that always trips up people, is none of their bonuses last into the enemy's phase.
The War Chanter breaks my heart.
Yep.
Because of that. I almost don't want to take him, but the way the points work out, you almost always end up with about 90 points left over. So it's like, what do you take? A War Chanter.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So like between your Wa and the War Chanter buffs and everything, it's all like your turn till the end of your turn, basically, or the next combat phase or however it's phrased, right? The point being is that like when it's on the enemy turn, you're like you get. It's really sad how much less effective your Ironjawz are off turn. So that's a downside. Yeah, but they're like, and you mentioned this at the top, and I want to back this up. I think they are the most fun I've ever had playing Warhammer in 20 years. I really mean that.
Absolutely. There was somebody recently did a Facebook poll. What should I play, Ironjawz or FEC? And I'm like, Ironjawz, they're the most fun army ever. Period.
Yeah, they. It's so funny because they basically don't play in like two phases of the game, right? That is to say, like they have a fairly weak magic phase, if any at all. They don't have any shooting phase. That's not a thing. I mean, yeah, you can ally in, shooty things, but that just weakens your list.
Yep.
That's a trap because you just want more Ironjawz units. You don't need to shoot. Just kill the things that are in between you and the things shooting. Okay.
I think if I was doing the MSU list, I might invest in some shooting.
Sure. If you didn't have the ability of the Mega Boss to get up and over and remove those problems. Yeah. The MBMC, as I always type in when I type them out on my lists. The
MBMK is what I use.
Sure. For me, it's I should state that for me, it's actually Mega Boss on Maw Chicken.
Yep, that's fair. Given your model, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, he's back. You can see him back there. He's right there in that case. But they're just an unbelievable amount of fun, regardless of that. Like you're missing phases. Who cares? You're like one of the best at this particular phase. They're so wonderfully synergistic. They're one of the nice things for newer players is like, I can't imagine playing some of these armies and holding everything in my head as a new player.
Like a Sylvaneth army. I mean, that's why I don't get into Sylvaneth because it's just too much.
Yeah.
That's a
perfect example. Sylvaneth is like this careful ballet of intricate overlapping rules you have to constantly be thinking about. This very careful dance. And if you mess up one thing, your house of cards just tumbles, right?
Yep.
Ironjawz is not that.
I like to drink when I play games.
Yeah.
And I mean a lot.
Sure. This is the good army for it. It's just like it's
and you get to hit things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's relatively straightforward. It's the army makes sense. Things act like you expect them to act. The rules are relatively straightforward. Once you play a game or two, you will basically have it internalized. And you can then focus more on the game itself, on your matchups, on where your troops should be, as opposed to like remembering your weird rules. So to me, they are just a fun experience in a lot of ways. They're full of gorgeous models. I can't recommend them enough.
100%.
So there's an ever-present rumor that at some point in time they're going to make some kind of expansion for the Ironjawz. Okay. If that ends up happening, cool. Like, it's so funny because they really do have like 7 units. And if they did, I would certainly go buy them. But I've never felt like anything's missing. You know what I mean? Like, Domus, did you ever really feel like you need it besides the Mega Boss on Gordrakk?
The one guy, just give me a pig boss and I'm set.
Yeah. Like, I've never felt like I was missing anything. Like, you have all the pieces. Everything does. You already have a version of everything you want, right? Like, I don't know what I would ask for.
Like we said, tweak it to go to the next turn. A couple of tweaks of what's already there, and I would be a really happy fellow.
Yeah. One of the ideas that got tossed around was if you just had like ironclad across the whole army. So, you like maybe they're better at surviving as they get across the board. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm all for that. Let's do that. I'll take the Neg 1 Rend army. And look, you just printed a whole army that's immune to Rend.
I almost wish that trait didn't exist. I love it and I always take it, but it's because like it's a must. Good. It's so good. It's a must take, but honestly, if it wasn't for that trait, I would take a Fungoid Shaman all day, every day for running charge.
Yep. Yeah. It's It is sad because like you look at that list and you want to run the funny one that lets you charge in your opponent's turn on a 5-up, right?
Yep.
Like, because that is a hilarious command trait. The problem is it never works. It never works when you actually need it to.
No.
And Ironclad works every time. It delivers, right? So yeah, it's I'm not sad it's there, but I'm kind of sad it's there.
It's just I always take it and I always will because it is so good.
Yep. Yeah. So as people have shouted out in the comments, I don't want to skip this. Before we leave them behind, we do need to talk about Gordrakk, Mr. Big G himself. So have you ever run Gordrakk, Domus?
Yeah, actually, my first outing, my very first game with Ironjawz was using Gordrakk and the pig formation back when I was playtesting early on against Tom, and he was running a bunch of Minotaurs, and it did not go well. It did not go well at all because, of course, I first turn charged everything. Great, I'm into the Minos. And sure, I did a couple of wounds here and there, but then the Minos just hit back harder than the pigs did.
Yeah. That neg-2 rend hurts. It hurts a lot.
But I do love Gordrakk, and I can't tell you, there's a specific battalion, Bragoth's Beasthammer.
Yep.
And I would love to be able to run mixed destruction with Gordrakk in that battalion. That would be amazing. And it's exactly 80 points over at this moment.
Gordrakk didn't get cheap enough. Yeah, I mean, my read on Gordrakk is this. I don't like him very much because he's not better enough than the regular MBMC. That's my problem with him. Like he effectively chews off a unit of pigs, right? Because he's 140 points more than the mega boss on Maw Crusher. And his command ability is out and out bonkers, like no doubt, right? And it's not like you can't have normal WAs as well, because you could just have a regular foot mega boss in there and then still have your WA engine. Gordrakk's command ability is obviously only usable once a game, period. Yep. And it is amazing. I do think there's a very fun Ardfist build. I like him with Ardfist because with Ardfist, so with Ardfist, where you have like 50 Ard boys, all of whom have built-in +2 to charge, plus the Ironjawz +1 to charge. Let's throw cogs on there because life is crazy like that. Yep. And so now we're at +5 to charge, and Gordrakk makes you charge 3d6 inches, right?
So they're all getting in first turn.
They're all getting in first turn. It's pretty ridiculous how fast they can move, and they can regen. You literally like suicide 50 Ard boys into the enemy, let them kill everything they can kill, pin the whole army in place, and when they die, you just call them back.
Sure,
right.
And especially given up until recently in the meta, at least that I play in, I think you guys are largely in as well. Nobody was taking chaff.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That'll change. Competitive.
The eels have forced that change 100%, and other things as well. But
we can call it we'll call it the Gavriel Sureheart response, I suppose.
Gavriel Surcharge.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. But I do love, with Gordrakk, I like the idea of him. I think he has a great command ability. I wish he was about 80 points cheaper. That's really what it boils down to. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but I don't feel like the problem is, like, I look at him and I go, I could have a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, which is especially in Iron Suns where he gets the extra attack, and he has the extra wound. And I go and I make that comparison between the two of them. And I'm like, is this 140 points? Like, is this, I can have a Mega Boss and 3 pigs or just this guy. The problem is he's not carrying his water at that point.
And like command trait and item, and when all that adds up, you're just like, yeah.
His lack of ability to take Ironclad is a huge hit, right?
It is.
So yeah, it's a shame, but not being able to give him like -3 rend, because you can give your normal Mega Boss -3 rend, and pretty easy. And there again we go, like, Oh boy, Nelly. Like when that choppa goes up to, let's say, 10 attacks, 10 attacks on 2s and 3s, neg 3 rend, 2 damage each. Boom.
Oh man, it's all about the mighty fists.
Sure. Oh, them fists. Them fists are gross.
When they go up, bad things happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, yeah. When you're on you're gonna be on 9 or 10 with those on 2s and 3s, neg 2 rend, 3 damage each. Oh boy, that guy. He is one of the killiest units in the game, and I love everything about him. I love everything about him. The Ironjawz are a celebration of carnage. There you go.
Excellent. So, Bonesplitterz.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about Bonesplitterz. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. All right. Now, Domus, you actually sent us a fun list. So I thought, rather than jump straight into discussing Bonesplitterz in the same way, well, first let's talk about Bonesplitterz generically and what they are. And I thought we would look at them through the lens of the list. Because that's neat. Kind of because this list did very well. I think it took what, like 6th or something like that. But how did it do?
It was 4 to 6. I don't remember exactly where it placed, but it was in that range.
I think I have the Facehammer results. I'll bring them up while we're talking. But nonetheless, it did very well. So what's your general feelings on Bonesplittaz, and how they stand right now? Obviously or Savage Orcs, as our old school players may know them.
Well, the actually up until Facehammer, the only Savage Orc list I'd ever, not counting team tournaments, I'd ever really seen on the table were always the super annoying 900,000 dice shooty lists.
Oh.
Right.
Which
yeah,
is
the kind of
which is is cool and it can do well, and I get the attraction, but man, I just cannot stand to just sit there and have dice rolled at me for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Let's do something fun. You win. Let's do something fun.
Let's eat a sandwich. Should have lunch. We'll do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that list is. Unfortunately, at the minute. So I have faced in a team tournament. I have faced something like half of this list with a bunch of pigs. Basically, with a bunch of pigs that are activating twice in the combat phase, and the hand to move them. And I at 1,000 points, I thought it was really interesting, and surprised we don't see it more.
Yeah, the Savages are interesting, right? Because they're all these low save guys. And basically the army's on a 6-up, right? And they have a couple of interesting units that we'll talk through. But they are truly an army based on throwing buckets of dice at people often. Even in the melee oriented build, it's still basically here's a lot of dice. So it's you roll 100 as I think as Anthony in the chat mentioned, you roll 100 dice to get 10 unsaved wounds, right? That's generally what you're doing. And because they're not very accurate, they're not very, they don't have a high amount of rend. So everything, now there is an exception, which we'll talk about. But for the most part, they're just they are the bucket of dice army. And I think that's what turns me off about them. I think all their sculpts actually hold up really well. Despite the fact they're older.
I like the plastics a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Savage Orcs all look pretty good.
I don't like the pigs.
What's that?
I don't like the pigs, but I like the guys, the on-foot guys.
Yes, yep. The foot. I agree. The foot guys are where it's at. The pigs have not aged as gracefully, especially when put against the Ironjawz pigs. Right?
Well, that's just it. Yeah. It's always going to be a comparison in my mind to the Gordrakks.
Right. Which are the platonic form of pigdom. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you going to do? All right, so let's take a look at this list. Tom, did you want to add anything on Bonesplittaz before we jump into the list?
No, I mean, what I would say is that I think that they're a great hobby opportunity with all the flesh and tattoos. But I agree that they suffer from the problem of just throwing dice, and it's just a not fun way to play.
Yeah, and dice rolling apps aren't exactly well accepted, right? And it's rolling physical dice is sort of part of this experience.
Yeah. Right. I don't know that dice apps ever will see mainstream use in our game, honestly.
Right. So it's, certainly with Ironjawz, you can make plenty of attacks. We've talked about all this whying, but still, if you got 5 brutes, even if they've all got +6 attacks, you can still roll through it pretty quickly.
Yep.
Right. It's not the same thing.
And that's all that's largely all you do. So.
Right. Exactly. All right, so let's take a look at this list. Okay. There it is. All righty. Here we go. Let me share this up. Ba-doop doop. All right. Is that coming through okay?
Looks like it to me.
All right. So this was Ian. So Ian Spink.
Ian Spink, outstanding fellow.
Awesome. And I like this list, I gotta say. Like, this is actually I dig a lot of what's going on here. So he's got a Wargog Prophet. And I don't know what the command traits and artifacts and lores do. So if somebody knows, you can tell me. I know what the hand does, I should say. But that's other than that, I don't know.
I don't remember other than the hand.
Yeah, the hand is the one that's super relevant.
Right. Like my computer is dead. I'm not on my computer, otherwise I'd pull it up. So
does your computer die again?
Didn't you have like all your laptops die, Tom?
Indeed. This is one where I got the battery working, so I can do streaming. But there's a chance I was going to do the show from my phone.
Wow.
My new computer's in the mail.
Sure. So we got the 3 war docs who are who basically all get to roll for a random effect, and you're really fishing for a particular one, but that's okay. We'll talk about that. You got the 2 savage boar boy maniacs, the crazy boar boys. You got a normal boar boy. You got 4 big stabbas, which I like. 2 packs of 4 savage big stabbas, and then a big mob of more boys, of just savage boys, and then the Teef Ruck. So, Domus, you saw this in action, I assume, right? You saw it. Like, did you get to?
I did. I played him game 4.
Oh, there you go.
Sunday morning, first thing Sunday morning, and we had been talking multiple times through the weekend, and we were both running for best destruction. Although going into game 4, he was wicked behind on kill points, and I knew that, so it was like I felt pretty good about my chances. And then I got to fight a bunch of 3 wound pigs.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. So, okay, let's break this down. So tell me how does this play? You mentioned the important part. All of those boar boys are 30 wound units.
Yes.
Right? Because they're all 3 wound pigs.
So a bit of history. This guy has played this army for 2 years, almost nonstop in all of his events. So knows it backwards and forwards, upside down, inside and out, which I don't care what you're playing. That is a huge leg up in any game at any time.
Yep.
That kind of knowledge. So, mad respect to him for staying with that as long as he has. He's coming to Adepticon as well, and I think this is what he's bringing. So guys in the States will get to meet him. The minute he saw that I had a Maw Crusher, he got his big safari hat out, which was awesome, and put his big safari hat on because he's going monster hunting. So like no dude is more fun, right? We just had the most fun time killing the holy crap out of each other. And I purposely, again, my focus was on kill points, and I thought about Saturday night reading what this stuff does because it'd been a long time and I didn't remember, and I just decided no, I didn't care. That's not my attitude. That's not how I'm going into the game. And I went into the game basically blind, and he told me what everything did. But I don't process information at that speed well enough, and totally personally misunderestimated the output, the damage output the pigs could do reliably with all the buffs going is just absolutely insane with the double pile-in. And then he'd get the spells off, which I think let him reroll. He had spells that let him reroll stuff, wounds. So, and he always rolled the pig attacks first. So I had picked the big block as the thing to focus on and be afraid of and kill, because especially with the hand, he'd put Wurzag or the guy with the hand right behind the big block of boys.
Right.
And I knew the Stabbas would just destroy the Maw Crusher if I got him anywhere near them.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to avoid them. And ultimately, I got the big charge into the big unit and I devastated it. And was hoping for the double turn, didn't get it, which left my Maw Crusher out in the open. Which he put 4 Stabbas into it, and that was a dead Maw Crusher.
Yep.
So, I mean, they just didn't even blink. They killed him so fast. It's amazing.
Yeah. To kind of break down for people the brutality here. in addition to, what we've mentioned so far with all the wounds, like this thing, I mean, look at the wounds count down there. 203, right? Like that's a high amount of wounds.
That's a lot of wounds.
Yeah. What should be noted about, you mentioned them plowing through that maw crusher. Those 4 savage big stabbas, especially in a Tiefruck, are just like the bane of monsters, right? They are the doom. Yep. Because so people know how they work. Each big stabba makes 2 attacks, unbuffed, and you can these things can take buffs from this army and get better. But here's their unbuffed profile. They're on 4s and 3s with their 2 attacks, neg 2 rend 3 damage. Now, if they happen to be fighting a monster, it's D3 plus 3, right? So they can do up to 6 damage. If they die, then they do D3 mortal wounds with their final stab to something within 3 inches, right? Yep. So these guys are straight up monster shredders.
Absolutely.
And they're getting bonuses from the actual allegiance. Like the Bonesplittaz allegiance itself has anti-monster bonuses as well, like army-wide.
Yep. And the Tiefruck lets those savage big stabbas, because the Tiefruck is just 2 to 5 savage big stabbas. It lets that pile in during the hero phase.
Yes.
It should be noted that the Wargog Prophet, his command ability, is also
piling in the hero phase.
That's right. So, like, this unit can attack an outrageously high number of times. Like you mentioned, the pigs, the savage maniacs already have a double pile-in effect, right? And so, like, you could profit a Wargag, the Savage Boar Boys. They could attack in the hero phase, and then they can attack twice in the combat phase. The big stabbers can be fighting in the hero phase, and then again in the combat phase. Like, it's so many more. Like, they're just adding a ton of extra attack phases. Okay. And, those big stabbers, it should be noted, yeah, they're good at killing monsters, but they still get a bunch of bonuses and stuff that can go on them that can make
still multi-attacking.
Neg 2 rend 3 damage. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like you're in chainsaw territory.
Absolutely.
Like those are the numbers that you're comparing to.
So yeah, those in the boys I pegged as the 2 biggest threats, and the stabbas definitely were, but the pigs were a greater threat than the boys.
Yeah. The pigs do so much work in this army. Now, obviously, he's got the last, the regular Savage Boar Boys are much less dangerous, obviously. You do lose a lot, I think, at that 80 points, but you still get the wounds. Yeah. They're a little more anvily. Was he running them? He doesn't have his armament here. Was he running them double choppa, or was he running them shield?
I think it was double choppa.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that the only save he had was
just the 6.
Was really the paint. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it should be noted they have a 6-up. When they're in Allegiance, they have a 6-up that is a 6-up. Like, that's what it is. It's a 6-up.
So yeah, he had some great plays with them. I got one of those big units down to 2 dudes, like 1.5, and then he got the turn and he retreated out and kept his unit alive.
Sure.
So of course, again, because I was chasing kill points, I was then going after said unit versus playing better to win the game. I didn't care about winning the game. I was just caring about killing that unit.
Right.
I wanted those points. I did beat him on kill points, but he won in our game.
Gotcha.
Pretty handily. He won pretty handily. So
with the War Doc, so the way the War Doc works is obviously he has his little savage dance he does, right? And then you get this effect. So was he mainly fishing, I assume, for the caster bonus?
Yeah, absolutely. He kept all of his War Docs around his casters, and all of his heroes were clumped up. Basically, on his right flank, he had 10 pigs, the big 30 block, all the stabbas, and then all of his characters. And then the other flank, he had 2 units of 10 pigs.
Gotcha.
Maybe he had 1 War Doc over there with the 10 pigs. That's right. So I kind of had to split up, which was, not in my favor, but we were playing, I want to say Border War. I don't remember. I think it was Border War. So, there was 4 objectives that I was chasing.
Gotcha. Yep. That makes sense. It's funny because the War Docs have they have like 3 results, right? It's one of those standard like 1 to 2, it's this, 3 to 4, it's this, 5 to 6, it's this. And the 5 to 6 gives them +1 to cast and unbind, right, to a wizard of their choice, so they can bonus themselves.
If he didn't roll that, he didn't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because the other 2 are just like, one of them is like you reroll 1s for saves. I mean, okay, cool. I'm fishing for 6s, so I guess now I get a fish on 2 more die. Who cares? It's so statistically irrelevant. And then the other one is like you heal D3 wounds on a unit. Like, all right, I guess I can like heal a wound or 2 off of a damaged pig. It's not, or a stabber. Like, it's not nothing, but it's not okay. Like, it's so all right. But I love this army. I like the melee version now way better, since obviously Ruck was the old one we were talking about at the beginning, where it was all the shooters and they had all the shooting phase or hero phase shooting and stuff like that. But I think this is a way more fun version of this list. And moreover, I think it has the right gas in the tank to actually compete in, the objective-based game, where you need to be able to move out there. You need to be able to
mobility, models, wounds.
The wounds, yeah. And it was amazing to play against, and he was a great guy. I had 0 issues with playing against it or any of that sort, so I'd play against it again all day. I do think it's one of those armies like Chaos Dwarves that has some power in, like, because I didn't look it up and I specifically chose not to do that again.
Sure.
I think if I had researched it and gone into the game with a lot more pre-knowledge and thought it through, it would have been potentially could have been a different result. But because I think it's one of those armies that does surprise you because you don't see it. And you just don't see how everything works together. And then once you've fought it and you've overcome it, then it's, it loses some of that juju.
Yeah, quite nice. Good tie-in joke.
See what I did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's funny, the pros and cons of this, and I love the way that this sort of works out. Like, on one hand, they do tend to want to clump their heroes, and their heroes are a bunch of like the war docs are 5 wound dudes on a 6-up save or whatever, and the prophet is like a 6 wound dude on a 5-up save, right? So these are not tough heroes by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Yeah.
So like they're very susceptible to like having a comet dropped on their head or something like that, right?
Well, or just a very bad day against Nergal that's like splashing around mortal wounds table wide.
Yeah, but against Ironjawz, he was, just grinning because
sure.
You got a 6-inch base, 6-inch round base you put nowhere, right? I mean, that base is just such a pain in the ass.
It is that we didn't mention it in Ironjawz, but God, is that the drawback of the MBMC? That base will frustrate you. That is the only frustrating part of that army. You will often find places.
I have never seen Vince get as mad as I saw him get at last year at Havoc with like Jake and Sean. Jake played it Sean played it super smart, laid his stuff right where he needed for that Sylvaneth Wildwood, and that Maw Crusher did 0.
Sure.
Yes, the stupid guy was stuck in the woods for 3 turns.
Oh my God.
Where he couldn't move. Like, I couldn't actually land the base anywhere. And I was in combat.
Charges. Yeah.
I was in combat because somebody was standing at 3 inches, but I couldn't actually pile in because of the dumb trees to attack them. So I was in combat with a unit.
Couldn't retreat.
I couldn't fight and I couldn't retreat because there was nowhere to land.
It's actually one of the biggest mistakes I see non-top table players making is taking those things with the big base and every time they go to pick it up, that's the first thing I say is nope, measure from the back.
Measure from the back. Yeah,
yes. And all of it, they think they're going to leapfrog over everything, and 6 inches is a lot.
It is.
It's a big base.
Yeah, that was an important. I think that was the moment where my hatred of Sylvaneth Wildwoods really crystallized. Because I've never had a problem with like other terrain on the table. It's just those stupid trees. They also kept getting caught on him as well. You know what I mean? Like the dumb trees keep getting caught on him. Just model wise, it's just frustrating. That being said, he did it. Look, he did eventually break his way out. And like at bottom of 4, he broke his way out and killed his way through like blew up a unit of 6 Skyfires and just went on a smashing and bashing rampage. So
he did.
I have never had a more cathartic experience than when he got free and just like, kill everything. So anyway,
That happened.
back to Savage Orcs. So at any rate, measure from the back is a good piece of advice, Domus.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's funny is there is a lot of like monster heroes who are pretty good in the meta right now. That like things like these Savage Big Stabbers and the army bonuses themselves will just mess up. So just as a funny explanation, because this is the list of all of the lists from Facehammer or whatever, right?
Yep.
So like just for fun, I scrolled up from here. Okay. So there's a Stormcast list. Okay, no, that's a nothing to do there, but that's fine. Nonetheless, those stabbers are good at stabbing through Stormcast armor, but nonetheless. And then I came up to this one and I was like, huh.
Which one is this?
Yeah,
This
the
is
zombie dragon.
Oh, the the big death list.
Yeah, and I was like, well, lots of good stabber targets here for sure, right?
That list was on table 1, I think, game 2, 3, and 4 as well.
Sure.
Wow.
Now, I mean, you got to deal with the doppelganger cloak, but this guy's dead. That dimensional blade's not going to save his life, that's for sure. And God forbid they get anywhere near Neferata. I went up here and looked at this one, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Like, I hope that ward save is popping off, man. Because otherwise, those are going to be dead birds. You know, just like as I scrolled up, I was like, "Man, Alariel, they will just spike Alariel like a football." She stands no chance against some of those big stabbers. Yeah, and then up here, the Troggoth Hag and the Frost Lord. I was like, "Yep." It was just funny to me how many of these lists, those things, like those are big, important centerpieces, and you like the army has good answers to those centerpieces.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah, I think its weakness is the fact that it doesn't have a lot of heroes that are good at holding objectives.
Right.
And so like it's real hard not like if I was running something like this, I couldn't almost not run like a troll hag, or something like that. Some big beady, hero. High wound hero. I don't know. That's me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't mention it, but it should be noted that like that 30 pack of More Boys, which you had clocked, those aren't 1 wound orcs.
No, those are 2.
Right. So like everything in this army is just a pile of wounds you got to fight through.
And with 6 saves, against everything. So.
Yep, they're just like rolling for 6s, rolling for 6s, rolling for 6s. Okay, great. And like, yeah, it just keeps chewing off damage. And that's tough when they have that high number of bodies and wounds. Yeah, they're cool though. I agree with you on the aesthetic stuff. I think they're fun. I hope that I hope some more people start experimenting with the melee Bonesplitterz, right? Like I think most people who were running them were playing Cunnin. I think when that points changed, they largely put those up on the shelf. I'm hopeful we see some more people, be like Ian. This is Ian. Be like Ian. So I that'll be great. I look forward to meeting him in person at AdeptCon and shaking his hand and saying that I really like his list.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Okay. So let's talk about some other units around the greenskin lot, right? There are some other units beyond Ironjawz and Bonesplittaz. Hard to imagine. I know. But are there any other standout greenskins you like from the larger list?
The Rogue Idol.
Sure. I mean, he's a greenskins. He's got the
greens, and he like all of his bonuses are for Orruk and Grot generically.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to bonus all the Ironjawz or Bonesplittaz, and he's at that 400 point mark. So he's a great ally.
Yep. Yeah, it's notable that he adds 1 to bravery and 1 to cast rolls for all those guys. So, I mentioned earlier the difficulty of like casting that spell. It's a strong one. one. And we talked about the bravery problem with Ironjawz. I think the problem with him is he's a giant, not an Ironjawz unit. I like him in Bonesplittaz. I don't like him in Ironjawz.
Somebody put a list in the WhatsApp recently with 4. and
4 rogue idols.
4 rogue idols, and I think somebody did the math, and that could get the foot down to like a 5 to cast.
Sure.
Easy. Actually, it would get lower. It'd go to a 4 because you
Well,
could get plus
5 is the only
2.
the problem is, do you have 20 orcs? Still, when you've got 16
Well,
points.
yeah,
in
you
a row.
gotta run
just take generic orcs at that
generic
point.
orcs,
Right.
yeah.
Right. 3 units of 10. Put them around your caster. That's plus
There you
2.
Arcane.
Yep. Well, no, the plus 2, and then if 4 rogue idols, that's plus 6 to cast.
And then arcane.
Sure, absolutely.
And then arcane. Casting foot on 3s.
Foot on 3. I like it. I don't know if you can bank on arcane terrain, but I'll take foot on 4. Foot on 4 is amazing. Yeah. The bright side of all those rogue idols is pretty cheap to make. You just buy some pink foam and cut them roughly to shape, and then stick them together with toothpicks. So that's not bad. Because
I have a rogue idol, and I love my model.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about a bunch of about 4 styrofoam rogue idols.
You wouldn't be able to tell the difference once I was done. It'd be fine.
That's one of my that it's not the same. Like you, sure, fine. Other people, be careful who you're encouraging here, Vince.
You'd notice once you picked it up, right? Like you're just like you're expecting it to weigh like 30 pounds.
It's got no heft to it.
You pick it up and throw it halfway across the room because it weighs like half a like it's the weight of a Snickers bar. Just whoa.
It's funny too because it's always one of the things I've struggled with is people doing like I love original models and I love conversions and I don't want to ever require anyone to be GW models only.
Sure.
But some of the cheap knockoffs I've seen people do, like with the plastic toy stuff, and there's guys that can do that stuff great, and there's guys that can't, and the bad ones just really break.
Yeah,
Vince, sure. I don't want to ever see any cheap plastic toys on any of your boards or any of your anything.
Too late, I imagine.
Well, Tom, that wasn't cheap. So there you go. I know what you're referencing. You're very funny. People will see it. I'll share it before we go to Holy Havoc. I'll share it. And because there's a what we're working on. So what's done. It's over in the other room.
Well, I'll see it then.
You'll see it. You'll see it then. Yes. And it is, in fact, it's not cheap. It is a toy. I'll put it that way. Okay. So other things of note, we should mention the Orruk war boss on Wyvern, the regular old greenskin dude, who has an interesting version of the Wa himself, right? He still bonuses all Orruk units within 12 inches, and they all still get 1 extra attack, but he doesn't have the restriction of the Ironjawz check, right? Of like where you need to have a certain number of units. He just does it. Now, obviously, he's not near as tough as the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, nor as Killy, though he's not terrible. Like he's an interesting middle ground between the foot guy and the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. I don't know, like he doesn't make any sense in an Ironjawz army, but he probably makes a lot of interesting sense in a mixed Orruk heavy destruction list. Because he does bonus all Orruk units, which Ironjawz are Orruks, and all these things are Orruks we've been discussing. And his as well, just like the regular Wa, has no restriction, right? Like you can press that Whopper button as many times as you want.
There's actually just an Orruk war boss that you can put on a pig that does the same thing.
Yes, yeah, the regular, like just the standard Orruk war boss guy. Yep. Yeah, because he can ride the war boar, can he? Yep.
Yeah. And his banner does the +1 attack that you can just spam. Yep,
that's right. So I think he is cheap. They're both like relatively cheap.
What's
like
the Wyvern? I don't
240.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. The problem with the Orruk war boss is I look at him at 140 and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like the regular Mega Boss on foot just seems superior, but. I don't know. It's like he's got some interesting things going on for him. The fact that he is an interesting way to get at wound rerolls, a thing that is generally lacking.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you can give the Orruk War Boss the Great War Banner, which lets you reroll ones to wound. It's notable that a large part of like the Ironjawz army wounds on 3, right? And so like having rerolls of 1 to wound, it does move the needle
Quite a bit.
significantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Half your fails.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like I've never seen anybody make something that I'm super compelled by, but I'm not sure that there isn't something there. The other thing I want to shout out are just your basic old Orcs. Okay. Like the standard old
battle line ones.
Yep. And you just nailed it. The reason I like them, I find them interesting, especially in mixed destruction.
Absolutely.
80 points, right, for 10 of these guys. So you're getting like 10 wounds of dudes with a 5-up save for 80 points. They do have a horde discount. So for 4, you can get 280. Sorry, you can get 40 of them for 280. That's what I'm trying to say here. And I mean, they're Orcs. They benefit from everything we've said so far, right? So they have a built-in bonus on charge rolls, which is kind of cool. Like they get +2 to charge. They have some natural resistance, very weak, but it's there to battle shock. You know, they're low bravery base, which is unfortunate. But like if you're just looking to fill out cheap battle line, they're a pretty great mixed destruction cheapy battle line throwaway.
I would say they're 100% the go-to.
Yeah. If you ever want to do your #3mag meta, you got to go for the regular Orcs. So,
or if you want to branch off into some of the big, there's a lot of cool big stompy monsters in destruction.
Yep.
Out of like the Monstrous Arcanum and whatnot.
Yes.
Are just tons of fun.
Yep. And once you get into that territory, well, Orcs are a great battle line to satisfy. They're the battle line. What ails you or whatever. They're good. Okay. Any other allies we want to mention? Obviously, Tom, you mentioned the Troll Hag. You want to talk about the Troll Hag a little bit and why she's, pretty useful?
Yeah. She's meaty.
Mm-hmm. Much like a taco, she is meatier.
She's hard to kill. Yes.
She's hard to kill. She has a decent spell, so she's packing the neg 1 to hit.
Mm-hmm.
She her spell also does neg 1 to hit and neg 1 to move. Is that right? Or is it just neg 1 to hit?
The Hag Curse, is that what you're asking?
Yes. Yeah.
It's 1 from saves and 1 from hit. So neg 1 to go.
Sorry, not neg 1 move. Neg 1 saves and neg 1 to hit.
Yep.
Yeah. So she has a rockin' spell. She's a great receptor if you're in a mixed destruction for an item. To make her even more tough. And then she's pretty killy. I mean, she's killy enough, is what I would say.
Oh, the puke is amazing.
Yeah.
The puke is amazing. Yeah, I mean, six puke attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 2 ren, D3 damage. That ain't too shabby. And again, 10-inch range. Like, it's not horrible. It's fine. For the kind of ranged attacks you normally have in destruction,
yep.
That's a solid grading on a curve. That's an A. That's a solid A. Grading on the destruction curve. Yeah. No, she's great. Anybody else you like in there? Any other big monster?
Not big monster, but I mentioned the Fungoid. I really like the
Fungoid.
Yeah.
You want to talk about why the Fungoid is so good? Because he's got that, that command ability.
The run and charge, what is it, 18-inch range? Anybody in 18-inch range of him can run and charge?
Yep, or retreat and charge.
And then he's also incredibly a pain in the ass to kill. Because I think he's -1 to hit base, and his spell gives him another one. Is that right?
So
I don't remember what his spell does.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was say he's going to be neg 1 because of he's a for shooting at least.
No, I just mean in combat. Even he's a pain to kill.
Sure.
Yeah. So the Fungoid. What's fun about this dude is he has like he has the Spore Squig, right? Who's just popping around him. So he's always neg 1 to be hit. Period. Just all the time, right?
And a 5-up.
Yep. And when he's got like a 5-up feel no pain save, right?
Yep.
Because he's super high on mushrooms. So that's literally the story behind it. That's not me reading into it. The ability is called hallucinogenic stupor. That dude is high on shrooms, man. I don't know what else to tell you. His spell is like the short range D3 mortal wound thing. But realistically, you know, that dude's a Griff Feather charm away from being basically unkillable if he's standing around other units, right? Where he's like -3 to hit and shooting, -2 to be hit in melee with a 5-up feel no pain.
You'll have to mortal him off.
Yeah, he's so resilient.
And he's an absolutely amazing model.
He is a great model.
It's phenomenal.
So, yeah, he's the downside to him with that command ability, right? What you're talking about there. This is truly the great shame in my mind. Because I would throw him into almost every Ironjawz list.
If he didn't have to be the general.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
To use that command ability, he has to be the general.
And because he's from the Portents, he can general anything, but you're losing it. You give up the lovely command trait like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Yep. That's a high cost. You know, and I mean, sure, I guess I could like Ethereal Amulet over the Mega Boss to make up for it. Sure. But like, I honestly don't like Ethereal Amulet on the Mega Boss. I want to take an offensive item with him, right? Like he's there to kill. Ironclad carries the defensive weight I need. Because that dude has to do offensive work in your army. But yeah, that generalship is what it is truly the thing that makes me sad. If he just said this is his command ability, I think he'd be in every list I made for Ironjawz. Like I'd be like, yep, I'll throw done and done.
Ironjawz list ever.
Yeah. Like I'll blow I will drop a war chanter to get that dude in there.
Oh, 100%.
Every day and twice on Sunday.
Then you get it. I mean, you get it a spell because I honestly in Ironjawz I don't take a mage anymore. The points are so tight and it's the least useful thing I feel to the army.
Yeah.
I just leave them at home.
Especially in the world where Mystic Shield now does right.
Yeah,
like it's old world, you took it to Mystic Shield, your Maw Crusher.
Which
right?
I never cast. I could never. You can ask Brad in the team tournament. I bet I tried to cast it, 18 different times and maybe got it twice.
Right.
Stupid.
Oh yeah, that orc. Yeah, that orc, a 6 might as well be like box cars for every time he gets off Mystic Shield in the old world. Yeah.
It's all that smoke.
He gets I thought it was like, kind of sort of you need to be able to see your target to cast, and he's just got that smoking staff. He can't figure out where the guy is. He just keeps like randomly Mystic Shielding rocks or something like that around you. That bush. Take that. All right. Let's see. Potential destruction expansions. Let's let our minds run wild here, gentlemen, shall we? Let's talk about in an amazing world. What would we love to see? Create your imaginary destruction expansion. It has to be greenskin since this is Orktober, but you can make something completely new or expand an existing force. What's your world look like? Just go nuts. We're off in imagination land now.
Well, I know for me.
Okay.
It's hard for me to like I'll take the lead here because obviously Domus has to be like he has to be careful.
Uber cautious.
Yeah, uber cautious, right. For me, I would love an offshoot, like, so in the, like, it's not even in the main book in any real way, but in the painting guide for Ironjawz, which I own.
Yep.
There it talks about all the different tribes, and one of them is the Skybasha clan.
Yep. This would be the Ironjawz expansion that would actually do something awesome. Keep going. I'm with this.
And which are they're the pirates. Like, they're the pirate Ironjawz that go out and hunt airships. Like, they're the Skybashas. And I just want to do that army.
That sounds fun.
Like, when I do mine, like, they have a neat scheme where their armor goes from like jet black at the bottom to like bright silver. So it's almost like,
are you secretly hoping that this actually happens? That this rumored Ironjawz release is the Skybashes, and that's what you're sitting on?
Yeah. Like, I am. Like, that's what I'm sitting. I'm sitting on those armies because, like, I'm gonna paint them Skybasha no matter what. But the question is if they were to do something that direction with like and they wouldn't even, like, the awesome thing is you wouldn't even have to necessarily do airships. Like, they could do something like the 40K, like commandeer other stuff. They could potentially play into. I mean, I think they should have their own ship, but they could do something different with the army as well. I don't know. Like if I'm dreaming, that's the way I would want to go. Where like you could take and break apart and convert an ironclad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. No, that's good. Domus, have you got a thought of your completely imaginary force?
Yeah. I mean, of course, the hero on the pig is number one on the list.
We all know. I think we're all in agreement on that.
It's been said a million times, but I'd also just like to see, like, I hate the Ard Boys kit. I just hate it. So much so that my Ard Boys are all the Blood Bowl guys.
Oh, nice. Those are a good replacement Ard Boy.
100% great because they fit the aesthetic. So I'd love to see something to that effect that fits the aesthetic of the Ironjawz. The idea of the giant that you had earlier would be amazing.
Yeah, dude, the giant orc,
yeah.
who's just killed his way and gotten bigger and bigger and killed. I would love that so much. He doesn't even have to be like fully giant size, just like big. It'd be amazing.
I'd love to see a unit with like a spear or something, some kind of unit with some kind of range, because it's the one thing I always feel like I'm missing. I just think there's so much opportunity with those big hulking brute with that look to add in some kind of spear, some kind of crossbow. I mean, I know Chris Tomlin has done brutes with crossbows, something. Give them some kind of range. And I'm not like talking about anything overpowering, just some more choice.
Sure, like Orruk long strike, like Ironjawz long strike versions, right? Where they're literally like hefting around ballistas.
Yeah. And some more heroes of varied, combat heroes, yes. But the mega boss sculpt is so amazing. It would be nice if he had a mate that was slightly different, but still basically take the same idea and take a twist on it.
Yeah,
nice. For me, here's my perpendicular pitch. It's Speed Freaks.
Okay.
Like if dwarves can have airships, right? Orcs can have buggies. I want buggy orcs in AOS. And they can be ramshackle. They can look ridiculous. They can run on spit and hope and wah, right? Like, I mean, if orcs can drive around the universe.
Chariots.
Yeah. Like, whatever. Just Speed Freaks in some way. Just a bunch of lunatic, like, ultra-fast, psychotic, Mad Max orcs in AOS, right? That are just like, witness me, and they're like, they're just like, they've got these crazy kit bash, because like kit bashing orc vehicles is one of the great reasons to play orcs in 40k. I would love if we had that same opportunity in some way in AOS, right?
100%.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like, literally, I'm not saying like we don't need like literal buggies with giant engines in the back. It doesn't have to be like, what was that show called? Wacky Racers? Like, it doesn't have to, that's not what it has to be. But if it is, I'm not sad. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be.
That was the thing I always said about orcs, was I loved the 40k aesthetic. So, I mean, the Ironjawz really embraced that in a fantasy way, that 40k aesthetic. So yeah, bring more of that over. Let's go down that crazy road.
Like, I feel like they could do a good turn on it that made it compelling, right? In some way that like it felt still very much part of AOS and still felt like, part of that world. So yeah, and they could be orcs who are primarily on a different realm of beasts too, right? Like these could be orcs who are home in like metal or light or something like that, where they would naturally be more, perhaps intelligence, the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like cunning from the nature of the plane, right?
And last but not least, I'd love to see some avatar of Gork or Mork.
Yeah,
let's get the big boy on the table. I mean, that could be your giant type thing, but I've always wanted to see. We've got his hand, we've seen his hand, we've seen his foot in the game. Let's see the guy on the table. Let's make that happen.
Oh yeah, dude, that's such a good call. Now, do you want one head or two heads? Like, if he is he the avatar of Gorka Morka, or is he the avatar of Gork or Mork?
He could. So I'm not a huge lore guy. But I don't know.
Sometimes the god is like one being that has two heads, and then sometimes he rips himself apart and he's two beings.
Would he make sense as a Marathi type?
Oh,
a transformer.
Maybe it goes the opposite direction. He starts as Gorka Morka, right? Where he's a single being, a single giant being with 2 heads.
Oh, and then he splits into 2?
Yeah, he splits.
And you break him up.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, okay, we've done it. We've cracked this code. Boom.
All right.
Related to that, I would love a spell pack
Okay.
where you actually get like we have.
Oh,
foot.
you're saying an endless spell pack
Yeah.
where you actually have like the
Yeah.
foot and
Yeah,
Yeah, the foot.
if they did the upgrade, if they did the upgrade, the right move is you change the spells and then
Yep.
you make the endless spell the actual foot that's
Yeah,
stomping
sure.
around.
Sure.
I mean, come on, like
No, you're right. I mean, foot was an endless spell before there was endless spells.
no,
Absolutely.
and then what you do is like you also do that with hand, and it just like it's an endless spell that moves around and it just picks up units nearby,
Throws
like
them around.
of other ones of like good or bad. Like I don't know.
So amazing.
Yes. I dig it completely. Yes. 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 All day, twice on Sunday, man. All right. Well, you heard it, GW. There you go. We've given you all the ideas you need to plot out. I fully expect 2019 to be the year of destruction. I'm sure we'll see none of what we just talked about. So that's exciting, but I'm sure we'll see plenty of goblin stuff. So anything else we want to say on destruction, gentlemen, before we call it a night here?
I'm looking forward to their day in the sun.
Yeah, I mean, for those who destruction has had to wait the longest, but I mean, come on,
Sure.
they've went through all the other armies.
Yep.
Pete Foley loves Ironjawz and has an Ironjawz list. He said
Yep.
openly at Adepticon that destruction's going to get some love in the future.
Yep. Come on, people, it's coming.
We're
Just be patient.
We can put these puzzle pieces together for this very obvious puzzle and know that those of us who have been loyal greenskins or loyal destruction players are going to see some fun stuff. So there you go. Domus, any final thoughts?
No, I just, I love Ironjawz so much so that I honestly don't want to add to my army because the armor scheme I picked was just a pain in the ass to paint.
Yeah,
so-
you really went all in.
Yeah. So in lieu of that, I've actually contemplated starting just a whole new army,
Sure.
just a whole new
Awesome. Yep.
Ironjawz army.
Makes sense.
All right. Well, there is only one way we can properly end this show. Okay.
Are you doing it?
Yeah, so we're gonna all do a big wah here to end the show. I'm warning people because I'm a nice person, and if they're playing their thing loud or something like that, we're about to deafen you because we're all gonna give. I want a full-throated wah here, all right, to take us out of the show. I don't want I don't want this holding back. We're all gonna tap into the our inner orc. We're going for this, all right. So you've had your warning, people. Okay. Mute it if you want or turn it down. But here we go. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, wah. Everybody ready? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, wah!
My wife's going to cuss me.
Thank you very much, everybody. We certainly had a fun time. Thank you very much for watching. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.